Barakatah Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Racha Kodash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is Zechariah Chapter 9. And pretty much this comes to the inspiration of a question the brother asked at the camp. And he asked Elder Pastor about it. And Elder Pastor said, that either myself or him will go through it. He kind of mentioned a few words on it on one of the videos or one of the lessons he did recently. So I'm going to go through it. Lord's will, it'll be edifying, and I know he said that he may do something also on it, so Lord's will, this will be edifying, and we can go through it. Now, as you heard Elder Apostle Tahar speaking, this is talking about in this time now. This is talking about, really is talking about America. But you did have in the past, in the ancient world, you did have these different nations that came against Israel in these different regions, in that area. And this is the reason why the Most High is amassing these different armies over there in the Middle East and in those surrounding areas, because he's going to bring judgment upon them for the things that they've done against the nation of Israel. Remember, Yahweh Shai is coming back to visit Edom to bring vengeance upon them and the other nations for the controversy of Zion. That's in the book of Isaiah, the 34th chapter. So everything you see lining up in prophecy, the Lord is lining it up for a judgment that he's bringing upon this earth in these times. And in these times is when Yahweh Shai is going to come back and reestablish his kingdom on earth with the Israelites ruling with him, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians. Now, these people that talk about that the Babylon, that Revelation and other scriptures like that are speaking about, is talking about ancient Babylon. Well, when you look at the prophecies, everything is pointing towards the direction of Yahweh Shai's second coming, because all of the signs are appearing that he said would happen at the end when he's about to make his second coming. So that would mean if Babylon the Great is actually ancient Babylon, then that city would have to be built back up, because it ain't really built back up. I mean, there's still people living in those areas, but it would have to be built back up into a metropolis like it was at one time. And then it would have to make the whole world rich, and then eventually be destroyed. So that's how we know that it's not talking about ancient Babylon. It's talking about modern day Babylon, but the scriptures don't mention the name America. So when we read into this chapter in Zechariah 9, it's talking about these times now. It's talking about, some of those different nations over there that will be dealt with for what they've done to the children of Israel, and also it's dealing with America. Now, the first scripture I wanted to start off with is Zephaniah 3 and 8, and this came to me as I was getting ready to come down this way to do the lesson. So this is Zephaniah 3 and 8. It says, "Therefore wait ye upon me, saith the Lord, until the day that I rise up to the prey," because the Most High is the one that's going to give the ultimate and final judgment. That's why it says vengeance belongs unto him. It says, "For my determination is to gather the nations," which is all these different nations, "that I may assemble the kingdoms to pour upon them mine indignation." And what is indignation? It's righteous anger. So what is the indignation of the Lord? The indignation of the Lord or the fire that's going to be coming out of those missiles, and also the laser from the chariots. But the great indignation of the Lord is that great fire that's going to be coming from those missiles, that when the Apostle John saw it, he described it as a lake of fire, because the prophets were up in the air, in the chariot, looking down and seeing America totally engulfed in flames, and certain parts of the earth engulfed in flames. It says, "Even all my fierce anger for all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy," because that's how this world is going to go out. All of these different empires are going to go out at that time. because they're all being governed and ruled by Babylon the Great, which is America. That's why it says the kings of the earth committed fornication with her. So once this place, America's gone, all these nations are going to be gone right along with it. Now, when we go to Zechariah, the 9th chapter, in the first verse, it says, the burden of the word of the Lord in the land of Hadrak. Now, the land of Hadrak is an actual land in the land of Syria, and this particular land, this particular name, Hadrak, means dwelling. All right. And the reason why it's called dwelling is because eventually in process of time, you were going to have Israelites in there. Remember, Abraham had family there, and you also had a lot of Israelites that lived in that area. There was a big community of Jake there. We speak about Alexandria, Egypt. We speak about North Africa, where, you had a lot of Israelites and different communities, but you had other large communities of Israelites in Syria, in Elam, in different regions around the areas of Babylon. So you had a lot of places around the world where Israelites were at. So this name or this land or being called Hadrak or dwelling is one of the places that the Lord is going to dwell among his people, because eventually that is, the ultimate, goal of the Lord is to bring all his people back so he can dwell among us once again. So this is the book of Exodus 29 and 46. I started 45. And I will dwell among the children of Israel and will be their power. And they shall know that I am the Lord their power, that brought them forth out of the land of Egypt, that I may dwell among them. I am the Lord their power. So ultimately that is the end goal, is that the Lord is going to set his people back up and dwell among us. All right. And in those regions, you had a lot of Israelites in those regions. All right. Then it goes on to say, let's go back to Zechariah 9 and 1, the burden of the word of the Lord in the land of Hadrak and Damascus, all right, shall be the rest thereof. Now we know that the actual heathen nations are not going to receive any form of salvation. So what does it mean that it's going to be the rest thereof? Because you had a lot of Israelites in that region. Now let's go from there real quick to the book of Acts, the 9th chapter. Acts chapter 9 and verse 10. It says, and there was a certain disciple at Damascus named Ananias. And this is the same Ananias that came and restored the vision to Paul through the orders of the Most High. It says, and to him said the Lord in the vision, Ananias, and he said, behold, I am here, Lord. So now you can read the rest of the story. I want to jump down to the 19th verse, right? So just bear with me 1 second. Jump down to the 19th verse. It says, and when he had received meat, dealing with the apostle Paul, he was strengthened. Then was Saul certain days with the disciples which were at Damascus, right? And straightway he preached Yahushua in the synagogues, that he is the Son of the Most High. But all that heard him were amazed and said, is not this he that destroyed them which called on this name in Jerusalem, and came hither for that intent, that he might bring them bound unto the chief priests? But Saul increased the more in strength, and confounded the Jews which dwelt at Damascus, proving that this is very anointed, the Messiah. So you had a lot of Israelites in all those regions, and there are still Israelites there. And all through the ages, these different nations have put hell on Jake, because even the Jakes that are there now, in those different regions, these heathens are still putting hell on them, And this is why when Yahushua comes back, what is he coming to do? He's coming to deliver the elect from the four corners of the earth, wherever the Israelites are at. And wherever the Israelites are at, these curses are marinated on them. They're swimming in these curses, and they're groaning within themselves to be delivered. That's why when you read in the red Bible that we have, the heading on the top, it says restoration of Jerusalem. The Most High defends the church, because this is going to be at the very end. And the Lord is bringing judgment upon all these nations for what they did to Jake, right? So when we go to Matthew 24 and 29, it says, immediately after the tribulation of those days, because there will be a Jacob's trouble, I don't care what Nate says, shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of heaven shall be shaken. Why? Because everything that is in power in this world is going to be darkened in that day. All of the decision making, the ability to move about and do certain things and build and, financially do this and do that, or the other case, make these establish different businesses, work out people's problems, go into these different elections and whatever the case may be, it's all going to be done away in that day. So the light of this world is going to be put out. And there's not going to be anyone or any government or any dominion anywhere on the planet that's going to be able to function or operate once Yahushua comes back. It says, and then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, because the people around the world will be in mourning. The Israelites will be in mourning around the world, and these nations will be also in mourning. It says, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory, because that's going to do what? Bring deliverance. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. So everywhere where the Israelites are at, there will be deliverance. In the land of Syria, Damascus, Hadrak, all those different places, that we're going to read about. You had Israelites all throughout there. All right? All throughout those regions, you had Israelites there. Now, let's go back to Zechariah 9, and let's read that again. The burden of the word of the Lord in the land of Hadrak and Damascus shall be the rest thereof, when the eyes of man, as of all the tribes of Israel, shall be toward the Lord. Because remember, the Lord is bringing us back to remembrance. You could read Isaiah the 19th chapter, where it speaks about the Lord, bringing Jake back. Pretty much from all these different nations, returning our language back to us, setting up this standard that you see being played out throughout the four corners of the earth, sifting the house of Israel by this word among all these different nations. That's where you're having Israelites waking up all throughout the planet, coming back to their heritage, coming back to their nationality, coming back to their language, coming back to the true understanding of the law, statutes, and commandments, and the mysteries that are written in this book. It says, and Hamath also shall border thereby. Now keep in mind the word Hamath, because we're going to run across this word again. Right? We're going to run across this word again. And Hamath also shall border thereby, Tyrus and Zidon, though it be very wise. Now, you had ancient Tyre and Zidon. They did put hell on our people. But this particular Tyrus here is talking about America. All right? And we've gone to Ezekiel the 28th chapter, where it says that thou art wiser than Daniel. That was talking about the king of Tyrus. That is a representation of America today. And they have become wiser than Daniel. And in the book of Daniel itself, it says that knowledge shall increase. And that's how they have become wiser than Daniel, through these different excavations, through the different research that they've done, all right, on the planet. Now, let's go from there, building on that word Hamath. Right? Now, let's go to the book of Isaiah, the 11th chapter. Isaiah chapter 11 and verse 10. And in that day there shall be a root of Jesse, which is dealing with Yahushai, which shall stand for an ensign of the people, because he is that beacon of light. He is the main focus, in this truth, in the gospel. It says, for the ensign of the people. To it shall the Gentiles seek, which are the Israelite foreigners, and his rest shall be glorious. Why? Because he's coming back to bring deliverance to the Israelites, no matter where they be at in the world. Now you're going to have a lot of them that are going to be put to death, but the elect will get that rest that they deserve, or that they're searching for. It says, and it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand again the second time, because the Lord is coming again to deliver. The first time he delivered us is what? During the great captivity of Egypt. That was the first time he delivered us in such a great and spectacular fashion. There has not been anything else on the planet that has outshined that moment or that day, like it's going to happen now in this time. Let's go real quick before we read on to Jeremiah chapter 16. And this event that's going to happen now is going to outshine the deliverance of Egypt. As great as that deliverance is, this will be a lot greater. Jeremiah 16 and 14. Therefore, behold, the days come, saith the Lord power, that it shall no more be said, the Lord liveth, that brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt, which is still being talked about today. But the Lord liveth, that brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north. Now we've been in the north, in the land of the Medes, in the land of Babylon, in the Assyrian captivity, so on and so forth, delivered from certain ones of those captivities. How come none of those deliverances outshine the deliverance of Egypt? How come Egypt is still the main talk of the town, so to speak? Because that has been the greatest deliverance on the planet. This particular prophecy here has not happened. That's going to happen here in America when the Lord comes to deliver us. That's why the subheading on this book of Zechariah 9 chapter in the Bible, the red Bible that we have, says restoration of Jerusalem. The Most High defends the church, or the Most High defends church. All right. It says, but the Lord liveth, that brought up the children of Israel out of from the land of the north, which is America, and from all the lands whither he had driven them, and I will bring them again into their land that I gave unto their fathers. So now we're starting to understand even further how these different lands, you had Israelites that were among them. And the Lord is going to deliver the Israelites from among those nations also. Remember Amos 9 and 9. So going back to Isaiah 11, and verse 11, and it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria, and from Egypt, and from Pathros, and from Cush, and from Elam, and from Shinar, and from Hamath, which is what we just read in the book of Zechariah, the 9th chapter and the 2nd verse. And the land of Hamath is in the land of Syria. You have a large community of Israelites in the land of Syria. You know, when these devils went down there and started invading that place, you know, because they're trying to get that pipeline passed through there, a lot of the people that were suffering were Israelites. Just watch to give you an example of that, not dealing with the Syrian people themselves, but dealing with the Panama Deception, as they call it, where was it? George Bush Sr., I believe it was, sent, you know, troops down there to try out these new weapons on the Israelites down there and was destroying them. They weren't doing it on the Edomite population. They were doing it in the indigenous population among Jake. And that's what these devils do, because there's a resource they wanted in Syria. That's why a lot of those people became victim or fell victim to that, which they call collateral damage. You know? So anywhere on the earth where you see Israelites at, they're the ones that's being persecuted. So the land of Hamath, it says, and from the islands of the sea, because this is going to be a great deliverance, right? It says, and he shall set up an ensign for the nations, which is this truth, and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel. And we're being assembled from among these different nations, and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth. We just read that in the book of Matthew 24, right? The envy also of Ephraim shall depart, and the adversary of Judah shall be cut off. Ephraim shall not envy Judah, and Judah shall not vex Ephraim, but they shall fly upon the shoulders of the Philistines. And we're going to read about the Philistines in the book of Zechariah. But they shall fly upon the shoulders of the Philistines toward the west, because we're in the western side of the world. They shall spoil them of the east together. They shall lay their hand on upon Edom and Moab, and the children of Ammon shall obey them. You know, so there's going to be a total vengeance wrought against these different nations. You know, beginning with the Edomites, you know, dealing with the Israelites, getting their hands on these nations to exact vengeance for what they did to us. All right. So let's go back to Zechariah chapter 9, verse 2. And we're going to read a couple of verses and then jump to another point. Matter of fact, you know what? Yeah, let's read verse 3. And Tyrus did build herself a stronghold, because that land was actually a stronghold, but now America is a stronghold. It says, and heaped up silver and dust and fine gold as the mire of the streets, what you see going on here in America. Because the ones that's really getting rich off of this place are who? The bankers. They're the ones that hold sway over the wealth of this country. It says, behold, the Lord will cast her out, and he will smite her power in the sea, and she shall be destroyed with, or devoured with fire. Ancient Tyre was destroyed, right? It was destroyed by Alexander the Creep, right? And there were 30,000 people in the city. Some of them were massacred. Some of them were led into captivity. Then the Seleucid Empire took over that region, and Seleucus I rebuilt it. But then one of Alexander the Greek's generals, which became a rival, Antigonus I, he redestroyed that city. Then it was captured by the Romans. It became a Roman province. And then after that, Jake took over, you know, during the Byzantine Empire. Then around the 7th century AD, the Ishmaelites came and took it over, and it's in their possession. This is why today, when you go into all those different regions like Ashkelon, you go to Tyre, Zidon, and all those ancient cities, those places are governed right now. Egypt itself are governed right now by Ishmaelites. Because during the time of the Crusades, when they were going around conquering, they took over those lands and those regions. That's why they're in those lands right now. So this is not talking about ancient Tyre, because ancient Tyre is still there. It's still in effect. They still acknowledge that city until today. It's talking about America today, because that will be destroyed by fire, nuclear fire. All right. So let's read on. It says, let's read that again, Zechariah 9 and 3. And Tyrus did build herself a stronghold, and heaped up silver as the dust, and fine gold as a mire of the streets. Behold, the Lord will cast her out, and he will smite her power in the sea, and she shall be devoured with fire. And that's what we're waiting for this place to be totally annihilated by way of fire. Then you have Ashkelon shall see it, and fear. Gaza also shall see it, and be very sorrowful, and Ekron for her expectation shall be ashamed, and the king shall perish from Gaza, and Ashkelon shall not be inhabited, because all of these nations had a hand in putting their hands on the Israelites. And this is why they're being visited in these times also. Now let's go from there to the book of Psalms, the 83rd chapter, so you can see something. Psalms 83 and 3. They have taken crafty, matter of fact, I started 2. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult. These nations are our enemies. They are the enemies of the Lord. And they that hate thee have lifted up the head. Yeah, because they were beneath us, but now they became over us. Remember Deuteronomy 28, that the nations will be the head and you shall be the tail. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones. And this is why the Lord is coming to bring destruction upon these nations, because of what they did to us. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, which they did. It says that the name of Israel be no more in remembrance. What does it mean by the name of Israel be no more in remembrance? Because today you still hear the name Israel. The land is still being called Israel. So what is it talking about? It's talking about the name not being in remembrance among the actual people. Because to destroy something means you destructure it. And when you destructure it, you break down the foundation, the establishment, everything of it. So although the name may remain, but it's not upon the people of the Lord. It says, for they have consulted together with one consent, which is what? That's a conspiracy. They are confederate against thee. The tabernacles of Edom, first in line, Esau, the so-called white man, and the Ishmaelites, because they are part of this, and of Moab, the so-called Chinese, and the Hagarenes, Gebal and Ammon and Amalek, the Philistines, which you're reading about in the book of Zechariah, the 9th chapter, with the inhabitants of Tyrus. And today back then the ancient inhabitants of Tyrus did put hell on us, but today Tyrus or Tyrus represents America. Okay, it says Asher also is joined with them. They have helped the children of Lot, Silah. So going back to Zechariah 9 and 6, then we go on to read, it says, and a bastard shall dwell in Ashdod. Now, Ashdod is a port city that belonged to the Philistines, if I'm not mistaken. And that land is taken over today by Amalek. All right. They have sway and control and power over that land. Right. And it says here, modern Ashdod, founded in 1956 and incorporated 1968, is on the coast, 4.5 miles or 7 kilometers northwest of the ancient city ruins. The artificial port, because everything that Amalek did, they had to make artificially because that land is cursed now. Those lands are cursed now. The artificial port, enclosed by breakwaters, is southern Israel's only outlet to the Mediterranean. Much of the country's citrus crop is exported through Ashdod. So when it says a bastard shall dwell in Ashdod, it's talking about Amalek, because they're dwelling in that land right now. And they don't belong there. But they do, because the scriptures say that it will be trodden down of the Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles come in. All right? So you have to remember that this judgment that's coming on the world is coming upon the whole entire planet. The elect are scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. The elect are in every different land among all these different nations, catching hell from those nations. And the Lord is coming to deliver them, and some of them nations, he's going to put his foot in their ass. So going back to Zechariah 9 and 6, and a bastard shall dwell in Ashdod, because they don't belong there. And I will cut off the pride of the Philistines. See, because the Palestinians, the ancient Palestinians, which were Philistines, which go back to Mizraim, but then if I'm not mistaken, some of those modern Philistines or Palestinians there are really Ishmaelites. Because remember, Ishmael took over all those regions there. But you still do have some of those inhabitants there, So it says, and I will take away his blood out of his mouth, meaning he's going to take away all of that hell from our people. It says, and his abomination from between his teeth. Yeah, because Jake, you still got Jake eating all types of abominations, bowing down to these different idols still, because they think that they may be Syrian. They think that they might be from the land of Elam. They think that they may be among them Hamites. They might be Hamites. They think that because they're among these so-called European nations that they're European. So they're following the customs that they were taught by their parents from those different regions. So the Lord is coming to remove all of that out of there. It says, but he that remaineth, meaning the elect, even he shall be for our power. So that is the elect, that is that cluster that the Lord is going to save in this time. And he shall be as governor in Judah, and Ekron as a Jebusite. And I will encamp about mine house because of the army, because these devils are going to come hard. So the Lord is going to come harder. because of him that passeth by, and because of him that returneth, and no oppressor shall pass through them anymore. See? So once these devils go down, there's not going to be another rising up. There's not going to be another revolt. There's not going to be another time when these devils are able to put their hands on us, no matter if it's Esau or the other nations. For now have I seen with mine eyes. So the Lord sees our afflictions. He hears our afflictions, just like he heard in the land of Egypt. And what did he do? He sent them prophets, Moses, Aaron. And what happened? They spoke to the leaders of the time, and eventually the Lord hardened their hearts, brought plagues, and then eventually our people were delivered. And that's what's happening right now. You know, the Lord has his prophets out here prophesying, telling them what's going to go down before it goes down, and eventually it's going to fall. You see? He's hitting them with different plagues, whether it be staged or not. It's all of the Lord. This is what you have to understand. Yeah, well, you know, some of that stuff is staged. So what? Man's goings are of the Lord. You know? Did not Yahushua tell the disciples, look, go get me that coal, the ass's coat, you know, the foal of an ass, and bring it to me so that the scriptures may be fulfilled? So the Lord causes things to happen so scriptures can be fulfilled. Prophecies can be fulfilled. Then it says, rejoice greatly, O daughter of Zion. Shout, O daughter of Jerusalem. Behold, thy king cometh unto thee. Now, this happened 2,000 years ago, but it's also going to happen again. But this time, he's not going to come meek. He's not going to come humble. He's going to come, he said he will not meet thee as a man. He's going to come in the fierceness of his strength. He is just and having salvation, lowly and riding upon an ass, and upon the colt, the foal of an ass, right? And that happened back 2,000 years ago when Yahushua was brought through Jerusalem on that ass's coat, you know, and they said, Hosanna, the son of the highest. In other words, Lord, save now. Hosanna, Lord, save now, or save now. And that happened 2,000 years ago because this man, which is the son of the Most High, Yahushua, he is the one that's going to come bring this deliverance. He is the one that's going to come and bring this rest. He is the one that's going to come and put these nations down and pay them back for what they did to us. It says, and I will cut off the chariot from Ephraim and the horse from Jerusalem, and the battle bow shall be cut off, and he shall speak peace unto the heathen. Why? Because you're going to have Israelites that are going to be scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. So the word has to get to them. When you go to Deuteronomy, the 33rd chapter, it speaks about Joseph. It said that they're going to put them together, you know, with the horns of the unicorn in so many words. That's talking about this northern kingdom gathering some of the other northern kingdom by this internet, the web. You know, just like you have Judah, Benjamin, Levi gathering other Judah, Benjamin, and Levites, and then you have both kingdoms gathering the whole kingdom together. But it's only the elect that's going to listen in this time, because only the elect will be delivered. But in the kingdom, all Israel shall be saved. It says, and his dominion shall be from sea even to sea, and from the river even to the ends of the earth. Because once this kingdom is established, Yahushua's kingdom is established, all knees are going to bow to him. There ain't going to be no rebellious, they're trying to sit down and cause a rebellion, some conspiracy that, they see Yahushua slipping and they're going, no. It's going to be over. It's going to be done. And these devils know that. This is why they're, painstakingly moving forward, wearied, in their counsel, as the scriptures say, trying to establish this new world order, this agenda. Because they know that the Lord is coming. Right, it says, as for thee also, by the blood of thy covenant, I have sent forth thy prisoners out of the pit, wherein is no water, because it started back then 2,000 years ago, because we had no hope. We were in a prison, we were pretty much locked up until Yahushua came and set us free and shed his blood and brought peace and reconciliation between the Heavenly Father and us. Now in this time, he's coming back to do that, to release the prisoners out of the pit where no water is. Because in that pit, when we were here in America at first, we had no hope. We didn't know what was going on until the Lord caused a man by the name of Elder Albert Bivens to bring forth the truth, and water the Lord's garden, his vineyard, and make them to sprout back again. You know? And this is why it says in the book of Isaiah 51, Isaiah 51 and 14, the captive exile hasteneth that he may be loosed, and that he should not die in the pit, nor that his bread should fail. See? So that's what Yahushua is coming to do the second time. And this is what we're reading about. We're reading about these times where the deliverance is coming. So in the midst of what's going on, or in the just before the Lord comes to deliver Israel, you're seeing Israelites being gathered all around the earth, no matter where they may be. You see the nations being massed together, all the different militaries, you know, over there in that region of land, because the Lord is coming to bring judgment upon them and bring deliverance to his people. Right? Then it goes on and said, turn ye to the stronghold, ye prisoners of hope. So what is a stronghold? This truth. Ye prisoners of hope. Who are the prisoners of hope? Us, the Israelites. We are saved by hope. Did not the Apostle Paul say that? So turn ye to the stronghold, to this truth, ye prisoners of hope. Today I declare that I will render double unto thee. Because we suffered double. You know, we did suffer double. And we're going to receive, you know, honor and glory when the Lord comes back. That's why when he comes back to deliver us, those will we be the elect. He's coming to deliver us in style, man. And what we read further down, it tells you the magnificence of the chariots, how they're going to come. They're going to look like crowns adorned. And when you see a nice gold crown, and it has all those different emeralds and sardics and, you know, the amethyst and emeralds and sapphires and ruby and just different colored gems around it, sparkling. That's how the chariots are coming. So it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be spectacular. It says, when I have bent Judah for me, filled the bow with Ephraim, because the Lord is going to pay Esau back double. And that's why the two kingdoms are coming together, pursuant to Amos, the 9th chapter, where the Lord said he's building up the tabernacle of David that is fallen. So he said, when I have bent Judah for me, because Judah is the bow, filled the bow with Ephraim, and Ephraim is the arrow, which are the two heads of the two tribes, or the two kingdoms, and raise up thy sons, O Zion, because the Israelites are being raised up by those two, first Judah and Ephraim. That's how the tribes are being gathered. It says, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Shai, and raise up thy sons, O Zion, against thy sons, O Greece. Now this Greece goes back to Yawan, you know, which Yawan was one of the sons of Japhet, but the Japhites are dark-skinned people. This has nothing to do with the actual Japhites. This has to do with Esau that was in that region, in that land, that took it from the actual dark-skinned people of Javan or Yawan. That's who this is speaking about, because they took over that land. When you go back into history, Europe was taken over by the Edomites. All right. So it says, and made thee as a sword of a mighty man. Yeah, because the Lord is going to cause Jake to kick these devils in the ass. So there's going to be a major race war, class wars, all different type of things going on. There's going to be major catastrophe going on in the world by the time Yahushua gets here. That's why I said, I ain't come to send fire on the earth, and what will I if it be already kindled? And the Lord shall be seen over them. How? In the chariots. And his arrow shall go forth as the lightning. What is an arrow? It's dealing with the missiles, but it's also dealing with the lasers. You can read about that in Habakkuk, the 3rd chapter, about the lasers. It says, and the Lord power shall blow the trumpet, because that's the last trump, and shall go with whirlwinds of the south. Those whirlwinds are the chariots. And what are those whirlwinds going to do? They're going to be kicking Esau's ass, the other nations' ass. Remember in 2 Ezra 13, when all of these nations come against the Lord, they're going to be afraid, but they're still going to fight, because the Lord's going to put the spirit in them to fight. And then the Lord said, out of an innumerable multitude, there was nothing to be perceived but smoke and ashes. Do you imagine what kind of power that is to be able to decimate armies and planes and missiles and all kind of artillery just like that and vaporize everything? Man, you devils don't know what you're messing with, man. It says the Lord of hosts shall defend them. See, as the title of the top of the subheading in the red Bible says, the Most High defends church. The Lord of hosts shall defend them, and they shall devour and subdue with sling stone, because that's going to be the missiles and also the lasers from the chariots. And they shall drink and make a noise as through wine, because there's going to be a lot of bloodshed. Remember how the scripture say, Isaiah said, who is this that cometh from Edom with dyed garments from Basra? And they shall be filled like the bowls and as the corners of the altar, because you had bowls in the corners of the altar when the priest would sacrifice, and those bowls would serve as to catch the blood. See, because that blood was used as atonement. So these devils' blood is going to be shed. I'm sorry, not Amos. Isaiah 34, Isaiah 63. It says, and the Lord their power shall save them in that day as the flock of his people. Yeah, because he's coming to gather the flock, the elect. For they shall be as the stones of a crown lifted up as an ensign upon his land. Right. Just like a king, when he sits on the throne, they take the crown and they place it upon his head. You know, boom, you are a king. That's how the Lord is coming. He's coming to reestablish himself as a king over us and lift us up into that chariot. And that's going to be what? The marriage supper of the Lamb. It says, for how great is his goodness. And we're going back to the land. As it says, it lifted up as an ensign upon his land. For how great is his goodness, and how great is his beauty. Corn shall make the young men cheerful, and new wine the maids. Yeah, because we're going to go back to greatness. We're going to go back to having a good time. The Lord said that he's going to wipe away all tears from our eyes. We ain't going to know sorrow anymore. Our sorrow shall be turned into joy, and it shall remain joyful forever. Forever, ever, forever, ever. All right? So that, has been the breakdown of Zechariah 9th chapter. Just keep in mind that, knowing that, what we read about, that wasn't talking about the ancient times. That's really talking about these times. And some of those land masses in the beginning of the chapter are a lot of places where Israelites are still at, that the Lord is going to deliver from those places. But ultimately, Tyrus, which is America, this will be the greatest deliverance. And this deliverance is going to make the deliverance from Egypt pale in comparison. It's still going to be there, but it's going to be in the background. It's not going to be talked about as much, as this new deliverance. This is going to be the new talk of the town. So with that, I pray that your brothers and your few sisters have been edified. I pray that the brother's question was answered and that he understands. I pray that this was edifying. And to the next time I say, Shalom.